Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up from December 30th to January 5th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 3 shows, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I finished Inkmistress by Audrey Coulthurst. This was my last read of 2018 and it was an emotional ride. This ended up being my second favorite book in December, and if you're interested in the ranking of all 25 books I read in December, you should check out my December wrap-up. This book is about Azra, a herbalist demigod who lives in a cave above a small village. During the winter, the path to her cave is impassable, so she has a lot of time on her hands. Mostly, she pines for her lover, the daughter of the village elders. Once spring starts to thaw the snow, she knows that Ina will be back soon, but unbeknownst to Azra, things have changed during this season. This book is full of gut-punching twists and turns, masterfully placed in a land full of very powerful magic. I've only just set up the first couple of chapters, but the story really amps up from there. So I just have to tell you to read it as soon as possible because this book is phenomenal. Hearts will be broken, put back together, torn apart, and continuously fight to stay alive. You might even catch sight of a dragon if you're lucky. Next I read the #1 Ladies Detective Agency by Alexander McCall Smith. I picked this up for my local Nerdfighter book club as well as for Read Yo Shelves, which is an event happening all throughout January in which we are just trying to read the books we have on our shelves. I'll link the announcement video in case you want to join in. This book is about a woman in Botswana who comes into some money when her father dies and decides to use it to open a detective agency. Although I ended up enjoying this start to the series, the framing was a little rough around the edges for me. Early on we had random sections from the point of view of the dead father about his time as a minor. Although this was interesting, it made me wonder when and if we were going to get to the titular agency and the detection promised in the title. The chapters ended up reading like short stories with very low stakes until further down the line when the loose threads were kind of wound up. I appreciated the story, but the writing was not my favorite. I had several people tell me they love this series, but I don't know if I'm going to continue it. Next I tore through Rat Queens Volume 1 Sass and Sorcery by Curtis J. Weeb and Rock Upchurch. This is a snarky, cuss-filled fantasy graphic novel about these mercenaries who are always starting tavern brawls. So each group is given a quest as punishment for the latest piss-up. The most difficult part should be getting there with a hangover, but unexpected obstacles make it seem like there might be some foul play. This is definitely an adult read, not just for the language, but also for the bloodshed. But also features a female-female romance that is very sweet and I am here for. On New Year's Eve, after finishing Inkmistress, I popped onto Netflix to find something to watch and noticed that Black Mirror had a new episode called Bandersnatch. Since I have watched the whole series, I immediately hit the play button. I did not know what I was getting myself into. Also, I didn't know that the sun was going to do these things and I should turn on some lights. This 80s story follows a British fellow who is trying to design a video game based on a famous choose-your-own-adventure book called Bandersnatch. About 5 minutes into the program, the PS controller started vibrating and asked me to make a choice for the protagonist. Yes, that's right, this story about a choose-your-own-adventure game was in fact an interactive choose-your-own-adventure. This was so damn cool and I kind of want to watch it through again to see what paths I didn't take. I've heard other people started feeling guilty for the choices they were making, and considering some of the choices are pretty difficult and both of them suck, I can understand why. After Bandersnatch, I started RuPaul's Drag Race Season 6, and I finished the season this week. This season started out with a horror theme, which just kind of went away after a while. I was definitely happy with who won the season, but considering the final contestants were also strong, I would not have been upset with a different choice. As per tradition, my best friend and I continued on watching Survivor China Season 15 and finished it, and watched the first episode of Season 16, Fan vs. Favorites. I did know what happened with James's 2 immunity idols, but watching it play out was delicious. How Johnny Fairplay got asked back as a favorite I will never understand, but spoiler, he goes home first, and my faith in the game was renewed. This week I listened to Inkspell by Cornelia Funk. This is the second in the Inkworld series and is also a book that is on my shelves, which has me in a dilemma of can I listen to an audiobook for Read Yo Shelves? I'm still trying to decide if the audiobooks I listen to should count for Read Yo Shelves, given they aren't technically the book on my shelf. But the challenge this book would have covered is already covered by Rat Queens, so that's fine. The next audiobook won't be a double up though, so what do you think? Should listening to the audiobook from the library of a book that I have on my shelves count for Read Yo Shelves? Let me know down below. Anyway, as I said, this is the second in a series, so there's not much I can really tell you about it. My recommendation is that since there are a ton of characters, locations, and plot lines, remind yourself of the characters in Inkheart before going into this. This is especially important because some of the characters have multiple names and some of the new characters have very similar names to other characters. Keeping it all straight in your head can be a challenge if you, like me, don't refresh yourself ahead of time. I also had forgotten some of the plot points from the first book, but this book did a reasonably good job of reminding me why certain things were important, which I appreciated. Other than that, this was full of adventure and I really enjoyed the ride. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!